Dean Henderson edges ever closer to becoming a Red, but is this a done deal? Welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest news. Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are, whatever time of day you're watching this. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest news. In today's episode, we will be talking about Dean Henderson and the progress that has been made in this transfer saga. We'll be looking at Lewis O'Brien. Yes, remember him out with Wayne Rooney in America. Will he be coming back? And will it be in the Forest Red? We have plenty of other stories, and don't forget, tonight is the season finale of Beat the Drop at 8 p.m, where we will be saying goodbye to Chappie and poor Oscar. And we've already said bye to Mike, but you will not want to miss the banter on that tonight. And finally, don't forget, go grab your tickets for the signed framed Forest shirt, signed by the full squad. And if you're new here, well, even if you're not new here, please hit that like button. But if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe to Forest Fan TV and make sure you turn those notifications on. All right, let's start with Dino Henderson and the latest developments on it. Dean Henderson is going to be a bit of a dominoes style transfer. And what do I mean by this? It is all dependent on what Manchester United do with their current keeper, David De Gea. At the moment, it is set that De Gea is under contract talks with Manchester United to renew, as I believe he only has a year or so left on his 5-year deal, where he's getting paid $375k a week. That's nearly 20 million a year. Over the course of that contract, you're looking at almost 80 to 100 million for a goalkeeper. What the actual hell? But the talks is that he split the fan base quite a lot this season. Most of them seem behind him. He obviously won the Golden Glove this season. Don't know how with his fairy liquid gloves. But the point is that Manchester United and Eric Seven Hag wants to keep him on board. So for Dean Henderson to be released, firstly, they need De Gea. Now, even if they don't keep De Gea, the decision would then have to be made whether or not they want Henderson or wanted to bring in someone new. I cast your minds all back to early at the start of the season, where Dean Henderson sat down with Talk Sports and decided to tell Manchester United exactly what he thought of them. And for me, that was just a watershed moment. It endeared him to me because, as you all know, I'm not exactly Manchester United's biggest fan, and I could resonate with a lot of what he said in that interview. But take that forward, and he became more and more endeared to the Forest fan base. In fact, it was pretty much off the bat. His great saves against West Ham, again with Rice's penalty being missed, a couple of others, the passion, the desire to play for Forest was all there. And as we've mentioned, the way he was part of that squad, even with injury, even after surgery, come towards the end of the season. But it is not going to be a cheap transfer. As we've mentioned in previous videos, and breaking news, I can see this one stringing out a little, so there will be plenty of updates over the next few weeks on this. Manchester United are talking about 30 million for him. And don't forget, he comes with a hefty wage package currently on 100k. I don't think it will be 30 million. I don't think Manchester United are in a position where they can negotiate that high a deal on a player that they want to see rid of and who wants to leave Manchester United as well. So honestly, I can see this being in and around the 20 million mark, with maybe add-ons for another Premier League survival, clean sheet bonuses, whatever it might be, England call-ups, things like that. And you'll end up with a package. But I do firmly believe that this one is going to go ahead, especially with Navas now back at PSG, with the only other real goalkeeper link being Livakovic. I think it is going to happen, but it will take a little bit of time. So in the words of Take That, let's have a little bit of patience with it. But let's move on and get your thoughts in down below. I still feel it's not fully cemented in the Forest fan base that most of you want Henderson. I'd say it's about 80%. Maybe we'll do a poll on this at some point. But there's still talks of people wanting Livakovic. I think that would be a great signing. And there's still people who want to see Horvath get a chance after the great season he's had at Luton. So get your comments in on that down below. Let's move on to Lewis O'Brien. Lewis O'Brien has almost become the forgotten man at Nottingham Forest. Everyone remembers the whole fiasco when we lost 4-0 to Leicester. Unlucky Leicester, who laughed last? But that was the trigger for him being pushed out in the January window, where he nearly joined Blackburn for about a £10 million fee and an obligation to buy had they got promoted. However, with that falling through because of fax machines or whatever the case may have been, he ended up being put out on loan to DC United in America. And that loan period is set to continue currently, but there is a break in the clause that will allow him to come back to rejoin the squad in the summer, because the MLS season doesn't overlap identically with the Premier League season. So Lewis O'Brien could be set to return. However, there are a few clubs interested in him, and those clubs tend to look like those ones have been promoted or those ones who have just gone down. Sheffield United are the latest club to be linked with him, and there are rumours that Leeds would fancy a crack at O'Brien. After all, he was probably one of the best players in the Championship 2 years ago now, when Forest were in there. But should he really be moved on? Should things not be forgotten, hugged out, and, reconciled away? Because I still think he's a Premier League player. I still harp on to the start of the season, where I think he was one of our best players, if not the best player for the first month or two. But it clearly seems that Cooper doesn't quite fancy him. And that O'Brien has actually been tearing it up in the MLS. Now, that doesn't mean too much, granted, in terms of the quality of the division versus the Premier League, but judge him on what he's done on the pitch. There have been many falling outs in Nottingham Forest. And moving on to the next story, it will be Shelvey. Shelvey is going to likely leave Nottingham Forest this summer. That's the stories I've been hearing about it. He hasn't been at the training camp for a couple of days now, from last week really. And that falling out on with Cooper even seems to have been a lot bigger than was actually shown or actually publicized. But I do see Shelvey being moved along this summer, because if you're missing training, if communications have broken down, then that really does spell the beginning of the end. But what would you guys do with both Lewis O'Brien and Shelvey? Let me know down in the comments below. Moving on to some more transfer news on a player that may be leaving Nottingham Forest, and that is Panzo. Panzo, who was at loan at Coventry, who started off really well with them and then was used more as a substitute in the latter half of their promotion-style playoff attempt, has now been linked to Glasgow Rangers. Now, has that got anything to do with Ross, who is currently at Forest, which we picked up from Rangers? Maybe, I don't know. But it is unlikely that Panzo will remain a Red past this summer. I still think there's plenty of potential in the kid, but I do understand that his career is his priority and he needs first team football. So could I see a move to Scotland for him? Maybe, but I still think he'd be better off suited in the Championship. And personally, I'd still keep him and just put him out on loan and let him get another year or so's experience under his belt, because he still is very young. He definitely has the physique and the pace to become a great centre-back. And I'm not quite ready to let him go. But the talks is that he will be going to Rangers, or at the very least, Rangers are linked to Panzo. What would you guys do with Panzo? Bear in mind, we have, as I've mentioned before, 9 to 10 centre-backs currently on the book. Not even defenders, centre-backs. Would you let Panzo go, or would you prefer that he stayed maybe, or even just went out on loan? Let me know in the comments down below. The Premier League odds for next season have been released already, and even before Marinakis has whipped out the old checkbook, and Forest are 5-2 to go down. That puts them 5th favourites for the drop. Luton, of course, have come straight in as the favourites, and Bournemouth are below Forest in those odds as well. I think it's too early to get your money out, guys. Just wait and see what Marinakis does over the summer. I feel a big spending spree coming on. However, the odds that did catch my eye a bit more were that of the title, and Forest is 751 to win it. Is that worth a punt from anyone? Are you considering it? 750, I think, are decent odds. Remember, Leicester did that, didn't they? They came up, survived, and then won the league next season. Now, I'm not going to give my predictions just yet. I know I said top 4 last year, and I was just slightly out by a couple of places. We'll wait and see how the transfer window develops. I think there's going to be a lot of money spent from Nottingham Forest. I can see Marinakis whipping out the war chest again and really strengthening this squad and developing it into an exciting looking team. But those are the odds for Forest staying up. What do you think about them? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget, tonight at 8 p.m, it will be Beat the Drop, where we will be saying goodbye to a couple. No doubt bantering, no doubt laughing at them, and I'm sure there'll be a little bit of there'll be no sympathy at all. So don't miss the season finale of Beat the Drop. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV. This summer is going to be so much fun. No football on, which means no stress. Therefore, we can enjoy all the rumours, all the speculations, and all the signings as they come in. We'll see you tonight for Beat the Drop. And come on, you Reds.